Hello everybody, this is Joseph ProPatty and I'm doing a new video today and I'm covering my variant of the Harry Potter trading card game. This is a solo variant. Harry Potter, the trading card game. This is a game that was created by Wizards of the Coast. It came out, I think it was August of 2001. Primarily a two-player game. It was wizards dueling each other. You had elements, or they called them lessons. Those are kind of like, if you're familiar with Magic, they were kind of like your mana. So you had these 5 elements, these 5 lessons that you would use, and you'd use those lessons to cast spells, cast creatures, get items, and you would duel another player, and whoever's cards ran out, whoever's deck ran out, would be the loser. So that person who ran out of cards, they would be the loser. And it was a pretty simple game. It was, it had a number of expansions. The base set, I think, had 116 cards. They had a Chamber of Secrets. They had a number of different. What was one that was like Diagon Alley? So they had these cards. Right, and like this would be a lesson card, Transfiguration. Sorry. So you had all of these when it came out. It was pretty popular, and then it just kind of died. The books and the movie really got the popularity going. So as a two-player game, it was okay. It was more for a younger crowd. It was fun at that time, but I never really saw anybody that created a solo variant. And obviously it's been a long time, 20 something years, 23, 24 years. So I thought, hey, right, I have some cards. I have the base set cards. I have some cards from the 2-player decks, because they made some 2-player packs and they had expansion sets and booster boxes. So my variant is based on the base set, but you can use cards from all the expansions and all the 2-player packs. That's not a problem. You can use character cards. You have obviously you have the same 5 lesson cards, and what changes are the types of spells, types of creatures, and different types of items. So if you have a bunch of these cards, pull them all out, and then I have this variant that I created, this solo. It's on Board Game Geek right now. I'm still waiting for the files to be put in as a PDF, but I do have a link to a Dropbox where you can download the rules and try it out. So what I'm going to do in this video today is I'm going to talk a little bit about the game, set it up, go a little bit over the rules, and then in another video I'm going to do a playthrough, so you can kind of get an idea of the feel of the game, how it plays. The thing about this game is it's a drafting style game. It's not a deck builder. It is something where you're going to create, there's a adventure deck and then there's a player deck. The adventure deck is what you're playing against. It's not so much, I don't want to say an AI opponent. It's more of this linear adventure that you're going through, and you're going through different adventure cards. There's adventure cards, match cards, location cards. These you'll all interact with, and they scale up from 1 to 8. So you have basically 8 adventures that you'll go through, and these adventures will cause creatures to come out that you'll have to deal with. And the adventure cards you'll have to deal with. And at the end, you'll have like a, quote, big boss creature that you'll have to win the game. And this one is very simple. It's if you can go through and defeat all the adventures, defeat all the creatures, get to the last one, and defeat the big boss before your deck runs out of cards, you win the game. If you run out of your cards of your deck, you lose the game. Now, the player deck, it's 60 cards. No less, no more. So you have the ability in your player deck to put in your choice of the 5 lessons cards and how many you want. There's no limitation. You can have 10 of one and 5, 8, doesn't matter. And then you have 80 points. that you can use to purchase cards, and that's going to be the spells, creatures, and items. So you have this wide range, this ability to decide what you want in your deck based on those 80 points. Now, the rules are kind of new. I am kind of playing with it, so I'm hoping that more people will play test it and find the good and the bad. If they have suggestions, great. I'm totally up for suggestions. But that's kind of the nice thing about the player deck is you are going to create the player deck. You're going to use points and buy cards to create your own player deck. Once you purchase your spells, creatures, and items, then you will fill the rest of that 60 cards up with your lesson cards. And so you have to have this nice little balance. Kind of like in Magic, you want to have so many mana and then so many of your spells and that nice combination of knowing how much is going to come out when you play. So this one, what's important is you got to make sure that you have some ability to heal. And one thing I do in this game is I change the wording in a sense on the cards because the game is a two-player game. So it always talks about your opponent, you or your opponent. Where I've changed that verbiage where if you're playing adventure and it says your opponent, that really means you. So I've got in the rules where it says if you read, your opponent or he or she, they're talking about you. And so that you have that reference of when you're trying to deal with something and it has an effect, it's not going to affect your opponent. It's going to affect you as a player. So I explain that in the rules, how the text changes a little bit, how it affects your player. But again, you're not playing against an opponent. You're playing this linear adventure that you want to get through. And once you've created the adventure deck, which again is something that these games will be totally different every time you play because you decide what's in the adventure deck. You randomly decide how many or what adventure cards are used, what match and what location cards are used. And there's a specific number of creature cards, but you decide what type of creatures. Now, when you see those values of creature cards, like when you have an 8 or you have a 4, this basically decides like a level. So this would be like a level 4 monster or a level 8 monster. And that number would go along with the adventure. So if you are on your 4th level monster, it means you're in your 4th adventure, that 4th card. So you have the number of types of creatures, but you can randomly change the creature because each creature has different types of health and damage that they do. So that's another aspect that it makes this large variety of the game. You will create the adventure deck with random different types of cards, and then you will create your player deck with random different types of cards. And then once you have that done, and then you're going to play against this adventure where creatures are attacking you, you are trying to defeat those creatures, you can cast and put creatures out there that will help block damage against you. You have a set defined number of health. The creatures have a health, which is on the card. And then adventure cards, in a sense, have a health. They have so much damage that you have to give that to defeat that. And I'll explain all that. But one of the nice elements, again, is you will create the adventure deck and you will also create your player deck. And those will be playing against each other. So get your cards out and let me explain how we set up the game. Hello again, this is Joseph Propati, and for this section of video I'm going to talk about the components that are necessary and then we'll talk about the setup. So let me go through the component list. So you have your one character card. This is going to be your player character. You can pick any character card you want, but once you have that, that's your character card. And then you'll have another random character card that you're going to want to use because that will be placed in the adventure deck. Now this right here is my adventure deck and I'll talk about that. But you'll need a second adventure card or a second character card that you'll be putting and shuffling inside your adventure deck. Then you need adventure cards. These adventure cards, see, like here's a character card, and then you have adventure cards. Now, you need 16 or more individual adventure cards. They need to all be different than all the other adventure cards. You can't use duplicates. So you'll need 16 or more of those because what you're going to be using is 8. And you want to have more of a random shuffle every time you create your adventure deck. So as long as you're not using the same 8 every time, then you'll have a different game. Then you'll need 6 location cards. And those are the red ones, like this. That's a location card. Get 6 of those because you'll be shuffling these and using, I think, 3 of those. And then you'll have match cards. These are the yellow ones. You'll use 8 of those because we'll be going through and using 3 or 4 of the match cards. And then your lesson cards. These are your 5 different types of lesson cards. So these are what you'll be using in yours. Now you want to have at least have a random sort of about 7 to 8 of each, and then because that way you'll have, or even 10 of each. You know, they're just simple cards that you should have, common cards. But have a good 8, 9, or 10 of these per. You won't be using that in your deck, but at least you've got enough to decide how much you want to use and for filler. And then you have creature cards. Now, for the adventure deck, you have a specific number of creature cards. So level 1 creature cards, you need 5 of those. And then you need 1 of the familiars, like the pet toad or delivery owl or Mrs. Norris. So grab 1 of those of each because you're going to be setting up 5 of the level 1 creatures and then adding 1 of the familiars. Then for level 2, you're going to have 5 level 2 monsters. They can be anything. I think in my deck I have a wild boar, 2 forest trolls, and 2 curious ravens. Level 3 creatures, you're going to have 6 plus Trevor, the toad. Again, because these, as they come up, it'll be something that comes on your side and helps you. So 6 level 3 creatures, and then Trevor. Then for level 4, you're going to have 9 level 4 creatures, like this, and also a garden gnome. So you need the garden gnome card. That's a card that will also help you, so 9 plus familiar. Then level 5, you're going to have 3 level 5 creatures. At level 6, you're going to have another 3 level 6 creatures. At level 7, 2. And at level 8, you will have 3. And I think on mine I have Mountain Troll, Norwegian Ridgeback. I think I have a couple of each of those. And then for the big boss, I used Fluffy. And Fluffy's a level 10 big boss. Pretty potent too. I think it's got like 21 health and does like 12 damage. So that one's can do some serious stuff. And then for your deck, you're going to need a lot of item cards. So just have a good quantity of different types of items that you're going to be purchasing. Same thing with spell cards. And you want some extra creature cards beyond what you're going to put in your adventure deck. The creature cards are like spells. You can cast those, put them out. But the nice thing about them is they're like defenders. Not only do you use them to attack other creatures, but you can use them to block damage, which is nice. You will need counters. A lot of these little counters, because these will be used to keep track of health for creatures and also health for you. So I use dice. I use a 20 and a 10 because you start off with 30 health for your player. And then you can use these little counters for the creatures and for the adventure cards and match cards because those will also take damage to get rid of them. And then you need a 1d8. And this is used to keep track of what adventure you're on. So you might be on level 1 adventure, level 2, and then you just put this in front. And I'll show you that during the setup. So that's what you need for the general component list. And you should have that if you have a number of base cards. Shouldn't be a problem. Like I said, I think total your card deck has to be 60, and I think the adventure deck is around, it's a little less than 60. It's not too much. So 60 or between 60 and 70. So you don't need a whole lot of cards. But you do need specific individual adventure cards. They need to be different. I will show you, I'll give you a list of what I use for my adventure deck and my player deck, so you can kind of get an idea. But that's really all you need component-wise to start setting up the game. So the next one we'll do is we'll go into setup, and I'll explain how that's all put together. Okay, let's talk about, in this section, the adventure deck setup. So this is what you're going to be playing against. This is that linear adventure that you're going to be dealing with to win the game. And the adventure deck consists of creature cards, adventure cards, match cards, location cards, and a character card. This is kind of like, this would say this is like an NPC, or this is a player that you recruit along the way, is someone that's that you find that helps you out, that can help you out if you can recruit him. You'll need your counters, right? And then your D8. So what we do is first we start off, and you just need 16 or more of the adventure cards. They need to all be different individual cards. So you're going to take 16, right? You'll shuffle them up, and then you're going to deal out 8. So you have 8 adventure cards. Now, the rest you can put in the box or off to the side. All you'll be using is 8 adventure cards, and that's these right here. Again, they are all different. Then you will take a number of match cards. You need like 4 or more. You're going to shuffle those up, and then you're going to deal 2 match cards. Okay? And those are the yellow border. They say match. Then last, you will have, well, second to last, you'll have your location card. Now you need 6 of these or more. Shuffle them all up, and then you will deal 3 location cards. And they are red bordered, and they have the name location. So put that on there. And then the last card you need is just a random character. You can pick him if you want. You can just pick one randomly, but just one character card. This will be a character that you will recruit and help you out later in the game. Okay? And you want to look at their abilities, because that's what you'll be able to use during play. So then once you got that, you're going to shuffle this up. This is the adventure deck, and this is what you're going to be playing against as your linear adventure. These have your 8 adventures, which will correspond with the levels of the creature. So we'll go ahead and set that off to the side. Now, you'll have all your different creatures levels 1 to 8 plus your big boss. You know the levels because when you look at a creature card, it has a number in the paw. That number is consistent with the level of the creature. So you can have creatures going from 1 all the way up to the very high fluffy, which is a 10. That's your big boss. So what you're going to need is a number of these cards, okay? Now you can have a big group of these numbered level cards, and you can have duplicates, that's fine, but you need a specific number. Now, again, the rules are still kind of new. These numbers might change depending on how hard or easy I want to make the game, but for now, you're going to have 4 of the level 1 creatures, right? So you need 4 of those, and then you want to add either pet toad or the cat. I think it's, what do we have pet toad, delivery owl, or Miss Norris. You pick one of those familiars and add it, because this is a card that's going to help you. It will come out and it'll go on your side. So you're going to take those 5 cards, shuffle them up, right? And then set that out here. So here's your adventure deck. You've got your level 1. And go ahead and take your D8, put it in front of there, and then leave a space for a discard pile. All right, then next we're going to have our level 2. Now you have 5 of these, right? So we have 5 level 2 cards. Doesn't matter what they are, just they could be the same, different. Just remember they have their health and their damage. So that's what you want to keep track of. So 5 of these of level 2. Shovel them up, put it right there. Then we have our level 3. This one, there are, let's see, 6 of these. And then you also, or 5 of these, and then you need Trevor. Let's see where he is. 3, 3, 3. So we have 5 level 3 creatures, random, whatever you want, and then just add your Trevor Toad card. Again, this will be helping you out later. So I want to shuffle those up. Okay, then we have our level 4. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 9 level 4 creatures. Again, can be same, different, doesn't matter. But you need 9 of these. And then you're also going to be, I think it's 9, but I want to make sure it's actually 8 because 9 is the guard gnome. So I want to make sure that, so you're going to pick 8 actual creatures, level 4, and then add the guard gnome. Again, this is a helpful card. When it pops out, it goes on your side. So we shuffle those up to level 4, and then we have our level 5. There's going to be 3 of these. Level 6. 3 of these. Shuffle them up. Level 7. You have 2. Again, just random. Can be the same. And then level 8. 2 level 8 cards. Shuffle them up. And then last, we have Fluffy. That's our big boss. Level 10. 12 health, or 21 health with 12 damage. This is going to be a big one. And that goes off to the side. You can leave a little gap because this is basically not during adventure. This is after all the adventures have been cleared out. You could still have creatures on the board, but once you've cleared out the last level, level 8 adventure, that's when the following turn, the big boss is going to come out. Then to finish this off, you have your counters, right? You can play those off to the side. You'll be using those to keep track of health of adventure cards, match cards, and creature cards, right? And then finally, just make sure that your D8 says 1. That's for level 1, and that you're on level 1 adventure, which you'll be drawing in the beginning. And there's level 1 creatures. As you defeat the adventure cards and go up to the next level, you'll change this number and move it to the next level. Because it's very important that when you're fighting creatures and you're dealing with this adventure, as long as this adventure card stays out, creatures will, one after another, from turn to turn, keep coming out. So the sooner you can defeat this adventure card, the sooner you can stop creatures coming out and attacking you. And then you'll go to the next one. So that's why when you get to this, I think it's 4, and there's like 8 or 9 creatures. If you don't attack that and get that adventure card out fast, you have a lot of creatures to deal with. So level 1, put it right in front. And then this is your initial setup for the adventure side. This is, again, it's not an opponent. It's a linear adventure that you're going to be going through and dealing with adventures, matches, locations, and creatures. All that you need to defeat with your player deck. So let's go ahead and talk about putting the player deck together. Okay, so for this section, we're going to finish up with setting up the player deck. Now again, you need lesson cards, you need spell cards, item cards, creature cards, and then your one character. This is your player character. Just grab any one of the character cards or one specific that you like, and based on the ability, and that's what we'll be using because you can use that ability during the game. So you need your one character card, and then you have 80 points to purchase or draw or draft creature, spell, and item cards. So keep track of those 80 points, and then you're going to be buying these cards to put into your deck. So for mine, the value of the card is what you see the number of the lessons that are needed to cast it. So this, if you wanted to buy this item or purchase this, it's going to be 8 points. Same with this mirror of erased. It's 10. So this is going to be 10 points to buy this. Okay, so then you have lesser ones, like here's an item that's only 2 to cost. Right, so you can buy whatever items you want. Just remember, you still have to buy spells and add some creatures if you want. So you're going to add these up, right? There's what costs to buy items. And then here's some spells that I purchased. again, 7, 7, 3, 2. These are what the cost of these spell cards. They come out of that 80, right? And then I purchased a couple of creatures, a mountain troll and then the Ravenclaw eagle. So that was 12 points just to get those 2 creatures. But I'll be able to play those and then help defend. This is just a very set sample of items, spells, and creatures. And then last, once you've spent your 80 points, whatever you have remaining card-wise, you're going to add these cards up. Now this card doesn't factor into the 60, but you'll total these 3 types of cards, items, spells, and creatures. And then whatever you have left from 60 is what you can fill up with lesson cards. And again, lesson cards, you have the 5 different types of lessons. So you want a good variety of these cards, because these cards can also be used to cause damage, and I'll explain that for the rules. But you want a lot of these lessons cards, right? You need to make a deck that's 60 cards exactly, because playing the game, when you run out of cards, that's when you lose the game. So I don't want to vary less or more, because that way you have this set element, this number that you know is defined, and as you're making variations against your deck, you know that at least 60 is defined, and when you run out of 60 cards, hey, at least that statistic doesn't change. So you're going to buy your spell, item, and creature cards, add those up, subtract that from 60, and then fill the rest up with all your lesson cards. Okay? Once you have that together, you put these all together, right? Leave out the character card, and then you shuffle these. This 60 card deck is what makes up your player deck. And the nice thing about this drafting ability or buying these cards, now every time you play your player deck, it'll be different every time when you buy different cards. Try different cards. You know, try different items. Get some good spells. Get a lot of little spells. Make sure that you have healing spells, right? And I'll explain the types of cards to let you know how the cards are worded, because I make some text changes when you read the cards based on he, she. It's going to be you or your opponent is you. So, but again, I'll explain that as we're going over the rules. But make sure you have 60 cards exactly, and the 3 types of cards are the ones that are really going to help you out, because in this game, you want to cause a lot of damage to creatures or adventure cards or match cards to get through this adventure. And it's good to have cards that cause damage. It's good to have creatures that can block for you and cause damage. And get a few really high powerful items that can really make a difference. So there's your 60 card deck. Make sure it's thoroughly shuffled. And you set that off to the side. Leave a space for discard. And then the last thing you need are your dice. You need a 20-sided dice and a 10-sided dice. You don't have to have these. You can still use anything that will track a phone, anything that will track damage for your player character. It's 30 max, and then these you just tick the numbers off as you take damage. So that's the only reason I picked dice. But you can use anything that keeps track of a value. Just start with 30 and then it'll work your way down. So you have your player deck. Here's your adventure deck and your adventure cards. Here's your character that you can use the ability of, and all your counters. This is how your deck or your playing area should be set up. This is a setup of solo Harry Potter TCG. All right. So what we're going to do next is I'm just going to talk a little bit about the rules, and then on another video, I will go through a playthrough. So let's do that. We'll talk about the rules. Okay. So in this last section of the video, we're going to cover the rules of the game. It uses the same rules as Harry Potter TCG, but there are changes to the text in the sense that some of the verbiage is a little different. You are playing against an adventure track and not an opponent. So a lot of the cards say your opponent or opponent, and when that happens, it's really you that this is affecting, not your opponent. There is no opponent you're playing against. So when you have adventure cards, such as, we'll pull an adventure, and so first things first, when you're reading your adventure card, right? So we have our first adventure, and we would play our adventure level 1. We're on level 1 creatures. Now we read this and we go, there's effect and to solve, and then there's a reward. Well, you're not playing an opponent. So when you read the effect, it says, whenever your opponent draws 1 or more cards, he or she then takes damage. Again, there's no opponent. So when you read your opponent, always change that to you. Okay? That verbiage, that text, your opponent means you. So whenever you draw 1 or more cards, you take 1 damage. Okay, that's the effect of this adventure card. Then to solve it, the to solve section. Your opponent, again, you, skips a total of 4 actions. Those actions don't need to be one right after the other. So to solve this adventure, there's 2 methods, okay? The first method is follow this section, and it says, as again, your opponent, which means you skip a total of 5 actions. Doesn't have to be all in one shot, but once you do that, then you can solve this card. The other method is, when you read the to solve section, there'll always be a number somewhere. A total of 5 or 3, or do this for 3. That number is what you're going to set counters on it, and that's how much damage you can do to this card. Okay, so let's say you have a creature or you have a card that says do damage to an opponent. You can do that to either a creature, or you can do it to, when you say opponent, you can do it to this card. If it's a creature, you can't do it to this card. Okay, that's creatures. But when it says creature or opponent, you can do 5 damage to this card. Okay? And then you'll slowly move these away, and once you're done, you can discard this. And now you've completed this level, whatever, adventure. In this case, it would be level 1. So you have, when you pull a card, you're going to look for this number and put that many counters on it, and then you're going to read this and say, okay, if I skip 5 actions, I can solve this card. Or if I cause 5 damage to this card, I can solve this card. Okay? But the effect, whenever I draw 1 or more cards, I'm going to take damage. Now, I don't include that on the first draw. This effect is when you draw based on having cards that tell you to draw. Okay? This isn't take 1 damage every single turn, because on your turn, your first thing you do is always draw a card. So this effect is, I have a card I played and it says draw 3 cards. You're going to take 3 damage on that. Okay? So just be aware of that. It's not 1 damage drawing based on your very first turn or each turn. Okay? And then when you look down here on rewards, it says opponent rewards, which is really your reward. This one says you take 3 damage. Rewards are never negative. So if you see anything that's a negative because it's affecting your opponent, you turn it to a positive. Okay? So rewards on these adventure cards are always going to be positive for you. So in this case, you take 3 damage. It's you either draw 3 cards or you get 3 life. Okay? You can use it however you want. You can say, I'm going to draw 3 cards, or I'm going to give myself 3 life. But just make sure when you read the reward section of these adventure cards, put a positive spin on it. Make sure it's a positive to you, okay? Not an opponent, all right? Just be aware of that. So that's an adventure card. You'd have your 5 on there. We're on level 1. Every time in the beginning we draw our first adventure card. Now, I could have drawn a match card or a location card or even a character card. If that happens, you're going to set it off to this side. A match and location cards are always on this side. A character card would be played off to the side, and you basically have to get enough lessons to recruit it. To recruit a character card, you need 10 lessons. Okay? It doesn't matter the variation of what they are. You just need 10. Once you have those 10, you can now recruit that character card and put it in your hand. But until then, it's just going to sit off to the side. Remember, it's random in here, so it could pop at any time. If I had drawn a match card, I put it over here, and I got to draw again. You got to at least have one adventure cards in here, okay? So once there's an adventure card, though, you don't draw anymore from the adventure pile. You have to deal with this and then deal with the creatures, okay? So we've got our adventure card up. We have our level 1 creatures that we're going to be dealing with because we're on level 1. Then we would go through the normal turn sequence where if they're for the adventure turn, because you're going to have an adventurer's turn and then a player turn. So if we talk about the adventure turn, the adventure turn is, it starts out with, if there are any creature cards up here, first thing they do is deal damage to you. So you read whatever the creature card says, deal damage to the player, which affects those dice. Now, if you have your own creature cards up, you could block that if you want, and it's going to take damage. And if it kills them, they're discarded, or defeats them, they're discarded. But you have a choice. Either just take the damage, modify the dice, or use a creature to block it. Remember, it's a 1-for-1. Okay, you can't use 2 creatures and block 1. It has to be, if there were 2 creatures and you had 2 creatures, you decide which is going to block whatever attack, because they're going to go attack, attack, attack. Right? So that's the very first thing, is deal damage if there are any adventure creatures up here attacking. Then, if there's no adventure card, draw a card. If you draw an adventure card, this will increment. So if we had defeated level 1, we're going to change this to level 2, draw another adventure card, and that will be now level 2 creatures that we're going to deal with. If I've drawn, again, a match, a location, or a character, those get put off to the side. You draw until you get the adventure card. One adventure card at a time. Okay? So when you have the adventure card up there, again, remember, your opponent is you, he or she, you. Just keep that in mind. Read that text. And it's in the rules. It'll explain to you. Like, I'll give you an example. The adventure card, Peeves Causes Trouble. The effect reads, whenever your opponent draws 1 or more cards, and that's the one I read, again, your opponent is now you. You draw 1. You take 1 damage. Okay? Another one is 4-pivot drive. Reads, the effect is your opponent can't play spell cards. Now, you reread that and it says, it should read, effect, you can't play spell cards. So during that turn, while that adventure card is up, you can't play any spell cards. Now you can cast, or you can do items, you can cast creatures, but you can't cast spell cards. So be aware. You and your opponent is you. It's the same with to solve, right? An example, when you're doing to solve, if the text says your opponent, it's you, he or she is you, or if it says his or her, that's your, okay? That's a change. So he or she is you, his or her is your. So an example, 4-pivot drives. To solve, your opponent chooses 6 cards in his or her hand and discards them. This should read, you choose 6 cards in your hand and discard them. Okay, that would be to solve that card. Again, we talked about the method either causing damage or solving based on what the solve text is. Now, if you have a match card, let me show you a match card. So let's say we drew a match card and we play that over here. Now, match card, same thing. To win, it will have a number in here. So like on this Ravenclaw match, do 10 damage to your opponent. Well, that's not do 10 damage to you. That just means you're going to put 10 counters on this, and this card will stay here until you've done 10 damage to it. You can only have one of these match cards out at a time. So if you draw a match card and there's only one, put it to the bottom. That's different for location cards. Okay? If I have a location card out, let's say I draw a location card, this will have an effect based on this location, right? But whenever you draw another location, this gets replaced and the new one goes, okay? This isn't something that has to be defeated to win the game. It just has an effect on you while you're at that location, okay? So just remember, you can have a location card, a match, and an adventure card all up at the same time. Now, when you draw your first adventure very first thing you're going to do is draw a creature card. You're going to look on the creature card that says damage each turn 1, health 4. So you're going to take 4 counters. Put 4 counters. This is how much damage you have to cause to defeat this creature. Okay? Level 1 creature. Now remember, it's only 1 per turn. 1 card comes out per turn. So you're dealing with an adventure card and a creature card. The next turn, if this adventure card's out, I'm still going to draw another one. Okay, so you got to be aware. You want to get rid of that adventure card as soon as possible and start progressing to get to your big boss. So don't wait too long to cause damage to this, or you're going to have a number of creatures out here. When you do damage, you can have a creature do damage to this one, or you can have cards like spell cards or items that can do damage to this. Once you've cleared this 4 damage, you'll discard it into the discard pile. Okay? But every turn, no matter what the health is left on this card, every turn, the beginning of the adventure turn, this is going to give you, or I think it's at the beginning of the adventure turn, this is going to cause damage to you. Okay? So, make sure that's right. Yes. On the adventure turn, as long as there's cards out here, like this will deal 1 damage to you. Okay? So, you're going to draw from the level 1. We know it's from there. That would be the turn sequence of the adventure side. When you start, you're going to draw 7 cards to build your hand. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's your initial hand. Okay? So you have 7 cards. And you, on your turn, have actions that you want to play. Okay? So when you start the game, you have your 7 card hand. Okay? On your player sequence, you want to, 1, see if you have any cards out. Like when you have items out or spells, things that are out on your board, they might have an effect that will do something at the beginning of the turn. Just read those and make sure, just like your abilities, if it has an effect and affects you or the adventure side, do it. That's the very first thing. So before you draw your 1 card, just see if there's a card out that tells you to do something. If it does, do it now. Your next sequence, number 2, is draw a card. So you draw 1 card, add it to your hand. Right? Now, if you have creatures on your side, so let's say I'll pull out, let's put a creature in here. Probably have them in here. All right. So let's say I have a creature out, right? Has 4 health. So it would do, at this stage, on step 3, it would be doing damage. So I could do damage to the adventure, or I could do it to the creature. My choice. Okay? Creatures can attack the adventure card or creatures. Okay? And you'd be based on how much damage. So I could do 4 damage to this adventure, or 4 damage to the rat. Alright? So creatures that you have, they can affect and cause damage. After that, now it's, I want to perform an action. And you have 2 actions that you can perform. They can be the same action. You can use 2 to do a specific action, or you can use 1 to do actions, right? So 1 is play a lesson card. So I can use an action, play a lesson card. Any of the 5 lessons. So that's 1. Another one is take an action, play a spell card. Now, the way you're going to play a spell card is, you'll see this number 2. That means I have to have a total of 2 lessons in play, and one of them has to be the cauldron, right? So to play this card, so I can put it down, and then now I read the spell casting. It says, to play this card, discard one of your cauldron from play. So I'd have my 2 cards here. Could have been this and then something else, right? Or this and the cauldron. And then I discard the cauldron, and then I can do 4 damage to your opponent or to a creature. So the opponent or creature. Okay? So that's cast a spell. If I want to do play an item, let's see, do I have an item in here? Let's pull up an item. So here's an item. So let's say I have the item in my hand. I can play an action and I can cast this item. Remember, I need 4 lessons in play, and one of them has to be this Quidditch. So I can play it down there. Now this stays in play, right? And then before each turn, Bludger does 3 damage to your opponent if a match is in play. So if there's a match card out here, I can cause 3 damage to this or the match. Okay? Now I can also draw an extra card. So I can use an action and draw a card. I can do those twice, right? I can say, I'm going to use my 2 actions, draw a card, another action, draw a card. So those rules are the same that you see in Harry Potter TCG. A couple of the new things are, if I have these lessons, right? I can discard a lesson and cause 2 damage. Here or here. Okay? So 1 action, I could do that, cause 2 damage. Discard another one, cause 2 damage, and now I would discard that. So that's something that's new in this, that you can discard lesson cards to cause damage. And then if you want to use 2 actions, if you have 2 actions, and let's say you had the character card that you were able to recruit, you could play 2 actions and then play that character card and put it out on the table, right? So that's the one we're using 2 actions at the same time. And then when you're on step 5, if you have a card that tells you to do something by the end of the turn, then you'll do that now because we're getting close to the end of the turn. That last phase. So if you have an item or something that says, hey, at the end of the turn, just like the other one said at the beginning of the turn, you're going to go ahead and do that now at the end of the turn. All right? And then your turn's over. Okay? So just to go through it again, if you have any cards in play that say do something at the beginning of the turn, like remember the item before each of your turns, it's kind of in the beginning, cause 3 damage. Then you'll draw a card, just 1 card, put it in your hand. If you have any creatures, they can cause damage to either the opponent, this adventurer, or creatures. Or you can use actions to perform things, to do things. So you have 2 of them. And single action things are play a lesson, play a spell, play an item, play a creature, or draw an extra card, right? Or discard a lesson. That takes an action. So you can't just go, oh, I got 5 actions or lessons. I'm going to get rid of all of them and do damage everywhere. No. The most you can damage you can do in one shot is 4. So you're going to decide what you want to attack during your turn when creatures are attacking. Let's see. Let's talk about the big boss. So let's say, so you've taken this, right? So you've caused damage and you've defeated this adventure, right? So very first thing you're going to do is go to 2, right? Shift this to 2, and you're going to draw a new adventure. Okay? Now we draw a location, we put that out, keep drawing. We have our next one, we look to see how much, this has 7. So we're going to go ahead and put 7 counters on it. Again, you have a method to solve it, and then 2 is just giving it damage, right? But we're on level 2. So that means all the cards, first card that comes out is going to be a level 2, and we have 1 health, so we put 1 counter. So as you're playing on the next turn, if this guy's still out here, I'm going to take another creature and put it out here. Whoops. And put a health counter on it. Okay? And these creatures will keep coming until I get rid of this card. So if I go 1 more turn, right? Oh, crap. There's another card that comes out. And this one now has 5 health. So now I'm dealing with all these creatures, right? So I'm trying to deal with this, right? But now I get rid of this and I get this adventure card. Now we go to 3, right? And next turn, so we will deal an adventure card, level 3 adventure. We look at what the solve is. It says 5, so this needs 5 damage. And then we draw our first level 5. 5 health. So I have all these creatures up here. Obviously, I would have been taking some out, but let's say I didn't. So on the beginning of the next turn, the adventure turn, I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 damage from all these guys. So now I can go, oh man, okay. I'll block this 3 with my troll. And now I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, 4. And I take my 4 damage, brings it down 2. Okay? So just be aware of what you're blocking. And my troll's still alive, so that means whatever his health is, it doesn't matter. I can be 1 left. I still get to do full damage, whatever I attack. Okay? So use your creatures wisely. So let's say we've gone through all these creatures, right? Discard. Now we're working our way up here. We get to 8. We're on level 8, right? So we have our level 8 adventure, our level 8 cards. We draw 1, right? This is big. This got 5 health, does 7 damage. Okay. Now, I have to defeat, to get past this one, I don't have to defeat this creature. I have to defeat this adventure. So let's say I defeat this adventure, right? Pretend like there's nothing else in there. And now we're at the big boss. So the big boss, once you have defeated all 8 levels of adventures, you will put this out there, but it doesn't attack until the next phase. So it's going to have a bunch of these. It's got 21 health, right? Put all these on here, does 12 damage. We're at the end. We have cleared all the adventures, but you have to still resolve everything. If there's a match out here, let's say we've got a match card, right? And it has points on it, like this one says 10. So we'd have, like, let's say we have 10, we put a 10 die on there, right? To win the game, you have to defeat Fluffy, defeat this one, defeat this match. You don't have to worry about the location, but at least these 3 cards you have to defeat to win the game. Okay, so just be aware of that. It's not just beating the big boss, it's beating everything that has damage that you can get. So just be aware of that. To win the game, not only do you not want to run out of cards, because if you're at this stage and you draw your last card, game's over. You lost. Okay? You have to have cards in your hand and defeat all that's on the board to win the game. So just that's the win-lose. If I run out of cards, I lose the game, but if I can defeat everything, I win the game. Okay? Those are the general rules of play. Again, you can look at, the rules that I've posted. But let me just give you a couple things that you want to keep in mind. So here's some things to remember. As long as an adventure card is in play, a new creature will be drawn each turn from the matching creature deck until the creature deck runs out. Once you defeat an adventure card, it stops creatures from being drawn from that matching creature deck. So the sooner you can defeat the adventure card, the sooner you will stop creatures from entering from the creature deck in play. 2, when you defeat an adventure card, remember to increase the D8 by 1 and move it under the matching level of creatures. Okay? Next, don't forget that you can use an action and discard a lesson card to deal 2 points of damage to creatures, adventures, or match cards. In a crisis, this can end up saving you in the long run. 4, damage from creatures always happens at the beginning of the adventure turn. Just remember that. That's something that you have to keep in mind. When a creature is put into play, it does not do any damage until the beginning of the next adventure turn. So when you put a new adventure down and you draw a creature, that doesn't do damage right then. Okay, it's always on the next turn. Too many creatures in play can cause you a lot of damage, so try to focus on one creature at a time instead of attacking many different creatures. And then try not to sacrifice creatures unless absolutely necessary, because if you can drain them all down to 1 health, you still get to attack with full strength. Okay, and they can still block full strength of another creature. And then save your creatures till the end so they can be used to block damage from the tougher creatures. Okay, just some things you want to try and remember. But that's it in a kind of a nutshell. The rules, again, you'll find the rules under BGG, under the Harry Potter TCG site. In the forum, I talk about solo rules, and then I put a link in there to a Dropbox, which has a PDF of the rules. I'm also going to have the rules posted in the file section. I'm just waiting for the admins. But if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section. If you have any suggestions for what you've seen, if you have any ideas to make it better, I'm up for anything. This is something new. It's something I've been trying out. And I think the game is really cool, and that's why I wanted to put a solo variant together. I've never seen one. So I kind of like doing solo variants for games. And this one kind of works out. It's a tough one. So, and I like it's very expandable. It can be very different every time you play. It's new, it's fresh. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. Again, Board Game Geeks, go into the Harry Potter TCG, and in the forum section you'll find the link to the PDF. And if not, if it's there, you can also probably find the rules in the file section. So thanks again. Let me know what you think about it, and go ahead and put it in the comment section. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm always doing different rules. There's a bunch of videos I have that do solo rules for other games or for my own games. I design games, so you might find a game that you like that I've designed. That's a solo game. So thanks for watching, and enjoy.